friend Roger Christopherson here again with another first listen review. Carrying on with this week's new tradition that I just started today of listening to bands that I'm not super familiar with, although slightly familiar with. We're carrying on with Jag Panzer and their new album, The Hallowed, which is a concept album, and it's only a single disc, so that's not one of these. Actually, it's not too long, only about 53 minutes, I think is what it was. I don't know, but something like that. And basically, when I say I'm not super familiar with it, it's one of those bands I kind of came to. I knew I'd heard the name. I mean, I've obviously heard of them for years. Came out way back in the early 80s, but I didn't really give them much of a listen until maybe just a few years ago. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because ever get to those situations where you're looking for something that you're getting kind of bored with stuff, and then you discover something that's been around for years, and there's a whole catalog you get to discover like all of a sudden. That's kind of how I felt with this band. It's like when I finally gave them a listen, like a real listen, it was like, wow, these guys, this is the kind of stuff I grew up listening to. How did I not ever give this a try? Because this is back in the day when there was no internet. Everything was radio, and this didn't get played on the radio or anything near where I was. It wasn't on MTV. They weren't really much written up on them in magazines, because I used to buy every rock magazine there was and read. That's how I found bands, is just reading. Back when I was growing up listening to this stuff. So it just wasn't one of those bands that was on my radar until just not too long ago. So it's kind of funny, because I thought they were a new wave of British heavy metal band, or NWABM, as Bruce Dickinson would say. But they're actually American, from Colorado Springs, Colorado. It looks like just kind of, I dove into this band when I discovered them, but got everything, listened to all their stuff. So the basic lineup at this point is you got Harry the Tyrant Conklin on lead vocals, who was the original vocalist. It's weird because they released one album way back in the early 80s, 84 I believe, and then they didn't release another album for 10 years that was with a different singer. Then they got Harry back in the band, and at this point they have Mark Briotti, I probably said that wrong, on guitar. He's been with them from the start. John Tetley on bass, and he's been with them from the start. And then they got Rickard Sternquist, which I'm guessing is, I don't know, some Norwegian-looking sounding name there. And Ken Rodart on lead guitar. I'm not familiar with those guys at all, but they are the band at this point. And a little interesting side note, they actually had Chris Broderick on lead guitar for a few years there, about 10-11 years, and he left to join Megadeth. So the guitarist they have with him now, I believe, has been with them since then. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me, as some of you guys love to do, which is fine. That's fine. That's what this is all about, so it's perfectly fine. If I get something wrong, always feel free to correct me. But anyway, as far as this album goes, I kind of knew what the sound of this band was like from just diving in and listening to everything over the past 3 or 4 years. And so when I it started, it was exactly what I expected. Although the production on this one, I will say, is top notch. I was actually really impressed with the production on it. I really didn't get into the concept part of it very much. It's, I don't know, some utopian thing with some weird they got some narration going on, which didn't really bother me too much. Not like that Fifth Angel, and that one narration was a little bit distracting and kind of like too much. This one was just a little bit here and there. Kind of weird that ended with a female narrating like a story. Almost reminded me of the end of the that one the Beyond the Thunderdome, where the girl is reading the end at the very, or reading or just telling the story at the end of the movie. Kind of reminded me of that. But yeah, it's your basic. It sounds like your new wave of heavy metal, or new wave of British heavy metal album. It's really good. It's got that style, and all upbeat stuff until maybe the second half of it. You get a couple slower ones. I think it was Weather the Storm was a little slower one. And the last rites, it's like it's almost a 10-minute song, but the weird thing is it's got a weird, really long intro. Not a whole lot's going on, and then the song kicks in, and the song's average length, probably 5 or 6 minutes, and then like the last, I don't know, minute and a half of the song's this narration thing going on. So I mean, the actual song itself isn't very long, so it seems like they could have, like, I don't know, broken that up so you could actually listen to just the song part of it, which is actually a really good song. It's actually probably my favorite song on the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, overall, this is one that'll stay in rotation. It's one that I enjoyed. The only even slightly negative thing I would say is that, and some people probably disagree with me greatly on this one, but he's got one of those, Harry that is, has one of those voices that's, I think this is about the max length I could handle. He gets that, it's a really weird it's really full sounding throaty voice, but he gets these high notes, almost sounds like just screaming at times, but not in almost not good. It's right on the verge of being like annoying. So I think if it was like too much more or much longer, it would be just like to the point where I wouldn't want to listen to it anymore. But perfect length for an album. That's the only little negative thing I say. And that, like I said, it's just a matter of opinion, my personal taste. There's probably other people out there that like that and really love that style. Like I said, it doesn't really bother me too much because he doesn't do that a lot. But when it does, sometimes it gets a little right on the verge of being like, all right, let's pull it back a little bit. That, like I said, just my personal opinion. Anyway, as always, feel free to comment. Tell me what you guys think of this one. Great guitar playing. Forgot to mention that. The lead work on this, top notch. Really impressed. And the songwriting, I'll actually add a little note there too. There's some band, I actually had this conversation with somebody not too long ago. It's like, how do these guys, and I've heard it before, they have your whole life to write the first album and then you only have a year or two to write the second. I don't believe that. I think you just keep writing and writing and writing and writing your whole life. You've actually had more years to write the rest of the albums, and some of these guys just seem like they lose the ability to write a good song. These guys still write good songs. If this was, somewhere anywhere else in the catalog, it would be just as strong songwriting. I think they're really good songs. They know what they like. They know what they want to do. They're not like breaking any new boundaries with it, but you're always going to get a solid album with these guys. It's just another solid album. It's exactly what I would want from this band. So in my mind, that's a win. So, anybody else has anything they want to add, like I just said, feel free, and make sure you always like, share, subscribe, because it's really making the momentum pick up and a lot of more people get involved in conversation, which is exactly what I wanted to have happen with this. I just enjoy talking about music, sometimes too much, like this one's going on and on. So I'm going to end it here, and until we talk to you next time, we'll see you.